Psych! Got him!
Counter-Strike 2, better known as CS2, has been in Steam's top 100 highest selling games for over 652 weeks. Insane. And if being one of the highest selling games on Steam isn't enough, it's also the most played game on Steam. By far, it almost doubles the number of current players as the game in second place, currently being Dota 2 as I'm recording this video. But why? Why is a game that's been around since 1999 and barely changed still this dominant? Well, that's what I'm going to try to explore in this video. Let's get to it. First off, Counter-Strike is simple. You point, you click, they die. But that simplicity hides an almost limitless amount of complexity. In other words, the fact that the game is simple contributes to the fact that it has an insane skill ceiling. The movement, the aiming, the game sense, the utility, the economy, it's basically never ending, and there's always a strategic move that is right that will allow your team to take the lead. Also, the beauty of CS2 is that it welcomes anyone. A complete beginner can log in and just start shooting. Will they hit anything? Probably not. And that's because CS is not about shooting, it's about shooting right, with precision. If you've played the game, you'll have heard countless of times that crosshair placement is one of the most important things to master. But not only aiming requires precision, but everything in CS2 has depth. You don't just aim, you predict. You don't just move, you master movement, as your character's movement is inversely proportionate to your gun's accuracy. That means that every decision matters. Every shot, every step has a layer of skill behind it, which means that mistakes are very often not forgiven, which in turn makes it extremely satisfying when you win a battle because it means you simply outskilled your opponent. It's hard to be lucky. You're either good or not. You can't really pull off some crazy lucky shots. Obviously it happens, and it can happen often. But really, a lot of the times, the players that are consistently the best are the ones that know exactly what they're doing and they're not trying random lucky shots. And that's the flesh of the video, is the fact that skill is extremely well rewarded on CS. The limitless skill ceiling the game has accomplished is what makes CS2 truly eternal. There's no level cap, there's no max rank where you've seen it all. Even the best in the world are still improving, still finding new ways to outplay, outthink, and outshoot their opponents. What's crazy to me is that 20 years ago, people were pre-firing angles, and 20 years from now, they'll still be doing that. The tools stay the same, but how people use them keep evolving, and that's what makes the game truly timeless. Honestly, it's a game that just never stops pushing its players to innovate and outthink their enemies in order to win, and that's why it never dies. It genuinely is one of the few games where when I win, I feel great, but when I lose, I really ask myself, what could have I done better? Instead of just being salty at the game and calling it unfair, which is something that I mentioned in an earlier video about what makes a good video game. It's when you start blaming yourself for your performance rather than the game for being unfair. And in Counter-Strike, that's how I feel all the time. I'm blaming myself, thinking, didn't do that right, could have gotten that shot earlier, could have flicked it quicker. My aim needs to improve, my positioning needs to improve, my information needs to improve. There's so many things that you can work on, and that's what I really believe makes a really good game. Another aspect of Counter-Strike that has made the game famous or infamous are skins and the general economy behind them. Now, this is a topic that could take up an entire video, so I won't spend too much time on it, but long story short, CS has in-game skins that you can win in cases in a slot machine fashion, which you can then trade and sell to other players. That's relatively simple, right? $1 billion industry. Yep, and this is a whole new aspect of the game, is that people aren't just playing, they're collecting, trading, investing, gambling, and losing their entire life savings just to get in-game skins. And to a certain extent, I understand them, because owning a rare skin in CS is it's like having a piece of gaming history. Hey, quick pause, I'm editing the video right now, and I just want to take a second to say don't gamble. Please don't try to make money off this, it's just not the right way to go about it. But what do I know? Anyways, back to the video. In most games, skins are just cosmetics, but in CS2, they're a currency. A high-tier skin isn't just a flex, it's an asset. Some people just like playing with nice skins to inspect them in-game, while some literally hold onto skins like they're stocks, watching values fluctuate, waiting for the perfect time to sell. It is literally NFTs. It's like literally holding a digital thing that innately, physically doesn't have value, but digitally, humans attach value to them for some reason. I do too, it's a fascinating thing, actually. But here's the crazy part. Some of those skins that people are buying are literally older than the people buying them. I mean, here, have a look at this. In 2013, knife skins were introduced. In 2014, the first $1,000 sale happened on the Steam marketplace for a skin. Skip forward 6 years in 2020 when higher tier skins started hitting 10K in value. And in 2024, we saw a record-breaking $500,000 skin sale. $500,000, that's a house, that's a fucking car, a house, that's a life. Like, that's some people work their whole life for this kind of money, and someone bought this. Who knows what we'll get in 2030? Some of those inventories are just insane in terms of value of what people would actually pay to get those skins. And it's just mind-boggling to me. And all of that contributes to the hype of the game. It makes it special to have a skin. People will comment on it in a game, and it's like having a nice car. People will look at you. CS2 has something that most games don't, a stock market-like economy. And that obviously keeps players invested. Even some players that don't play the game anymore just keep their inventory in their skins safely because they think that maybe one day that skin will have a chance to double, triple, maybe quadruple in value. Because deep down, they know that CS2 is not dying anytime soon. Some people play for the love of the game and some people play for the love of the market. Either way, they keep on coming back because CS2 is not just a regular FPS, it's an industry. The next thing I want to talk about is that the game also never changes. And at a surface level, you might think that's not a good thing, but for CS it really is. The game doesn't need to change. Sure, the graphics improved and sure, they switched to Source 2, but at its core, Counter-Strike hasn't really changed in decades. And that's exactly why players keep coming back. No forced gimmicks, no unnecessary changes. Just pure, timeless gameplay. And that's the biggest strength of Counter-Strike. Other shooters constantly reinvent themselves. They add abilities, gadgets, movements, mechanics, anything to stay fresh. But Counter-Strike doesn't need to follow those trends because Counter-Strike in itself is a trend. You don't need hero powers when raw skills wins games. You don't need kill streaks when a single clutch moment can make history. And because CS stays the same, anyone can return to the game years after putting it down. And that's what makes Counter-Strike eternal. And on top of that, the community is extremely active and keeps it alive. This game isn't carried by developers forcing content updates, it's carried by the players, the one who grind ranked, the ones who create maps, skins, mods, the one who tune in for every major cheering like it's the World Cup. Whether you're dropping into a silver lobby for some chaos or sweating it out in the top ranks, CS2 just feels like home for millions of players. Also, the complete lack of communication restriction makes the game less toxic. I'll take that back. There's a lot of toxic players on the game, but it's also the only game where I've genuinely met a lot of really cool people and had some hilarious encounters with them, and that's a really unique thing. I mean, I'm sure that happens with other games, but CS is one of those games where you really don't know what kind of personality you're gonna stumble on when you start a new game. In my opinion, it's just the perfect game to boot up to forget about your life for a couple hours at the end of the day. No matter what kind of player you are, there's a place for you in CS, and that's why the game's lasted for 20 years and will most probably last for another 20. And if you've seen my stream, you probably know that, yeah, I suck at CS, but at least I know the game isn't dying anytime soon, so I'll see you. Fuck, man, I fucking hate this game.